22nd of July 2023, and I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this news report about the private sector that wants to partnership on the old coal-fired stations and recapitalize them and refurbish them to help solve the electricity problem. And before I'm going to talk a lot about that topic, I want to play you a clip of an Australian guy talking about CO2. Now, we've been hammered with this fucking CO2 story to our wits' end, and that is one of the reasons why we are in the shit with electricity that we are, because this clever Ramaphosa went for a tea party with this geriatric Biden, and he came back and it was all green shit all over. Within 1 week, Andre de Ruyter jumped onto the green wagon. Listen to this Aussie and listen carefully, and I've put the figures on the screen for you to watch all the time while he's talking. CO2 is 0.04% of the atmosphere worldwide. Human contribution to that CO2 is 3% of the 0.04%. That is 0.0001%. And for that, they are putting us through hell.
Carbon dioxide is 0.04% of the atmosphere. That is over the whole world. Human beings create only 3% of that 0.04% over the whole world. And Australia, human beings, manufacturers, cows breaking wind, bushfires, are responsible for 1.3% of the 3% of the 0.04%. Is anyone seriously suggesting that we should stand the economy on its head, force up energy prices, damage business, jeopardise employment because 0.04% of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide and coal produces carbon dioxide? Where is there a political leader who'll stand in the public place and say this is unadulterated rubbish and we are damaging our children? Forget the economy. Forget the fact that energy prices will go through the roof if we rely solely on renewable energy. I'm worried about our kids. They're being fed this garbage from kindergarten to primary school to secondary school to university, in the media, in business, in politics. It's a disease, and it seems to have us by the throat.
Now, I'm sure what you have heard now is an eye-opener. But our problem in South Africa is that the guys that makes the decisions that affects all our lives are low IQ idiots. Yes, and you must forgive me for using that IQ thing. But IQ is important. The American military does not even enlist a guy that the IQ is below 85%. And you want to know why? Because tests have shown a person with an IQ below 85% cannot be taught to think and operate sequentially. In other words, do everything in steps. If his IQ is below 85, he fucks around with the steps and he doesn't realize that it will fuck around with the result. That is science. Stick to the science. But let's get to ESKOM. I see this article in IOL business section. Minerals Council SA proposes ESKOM sells old coal power station plants to private sectors. Private sectors sell the old plants, the ones that they want to decommission. So these guys don't ask for Kuberg or for Medupi or for Kusile. which in any case, fuck, because they can't get the thing running because the ANC thought they were better at designing power stations than ESKOM engineers. House. Let that sink in. And they bought the wrong fucking boilers after the engineers told them those boilers cannot work. Vertical boilers cannot work in South Africa because of the quality of our coal. And they went ahead. They knew better. They clever. They've got most natural intelligence. They don't need to study for fuck all. You can take a cadre from the fucking street and put him into an engineering position and he can do it. Fuck. That is the problem that we have. But the reality is, those stations are struggling because the design was wrong. Now they're refurbishing them. They are about 5-10 years behind schedule and billions over budget, and now they've got to refurbish them before they can actually become productive. Okay. Now the private sector wants to buy. They want to buy the fucking old power stations from the government. Not steal it, buy it. The South African mining industry has proposed that ESKOM should sell or concession its old coal power plants to the private sector in a bid to improve its generation capacity and ignite economic growth. You know that fucking thing that will create jobs? That thing that creates jobs, they call it economic growth. And I'm explaining this for these guys with their 30% pass matrics. Economic growth means jobs. Jobs, you know those things that you go in the morning to a place and you do things, and then at the end of the month you get a salary. Not a grant, a salary. This bold proposal was made by the Minerals Council of South Africa to the Standing Committee on Appropriations in Parliament on Wednesday during public hearings on the ESKOM Debt Relief Bill. And just that where the shit hits the fucking fan. To the Standing Committee on Appropriations in Parliament. Go and look at images on Google of what the South African Parliament looks like when in sitting. And then you look at those people sitting there, and they pick out of those people that you see there, some of them sleeping, some of them sitting like this, checking you like that. No clue of what the fuck is being discussed because most of them don't even have a matric. They've been sent to Parliament as a favor to somebody. Not because you voted for them. You gave the ANC your vote. And then a few of them sits there in House and decides who will go to Parliament. And they check whose granny can bring them some more favor in that area and things like that. And those are the people that they send to Parliament. Not bright minds. Not the best of the best. No. The ones that can bring them the best favors. So, what the fuck do you think is going to come out of this proposal? The Minerals Council represents more than 90% of the country's mining production by value and represents an industry that is both a significant supplier of primary energy for electricity generation, but is also a large consumer of electricity. Now again, for the 30% passers, these are the guys that provide the coal to the power stations. But they also use a hell of a lot of power. So they want more power. They can give more coal, but they want more power. Minerals Council senior economist Bongani Motsa said the private sector would be in a position to recapitalize ESKOM's old coal-fired power fleet and raise each plant's energy availability factor. Motsa said that the generation aspect of ESKOM should be privatized, and selling the power plants to the private sector was key to relieving South Africa of inadequate electricity supply. You know, inadequate supply means there's not enough electricity. That is why you get load shedding, because there is not enough electricity. The government, as the sole shareholder and with various competing economic and social objectives, would better use the billions of rands wasted on ESKOM to invest in education, health and the safety of its citizens. Oh fuck, what is education? That is the thing that we don't want. We don't want that education thing because it's going to make the people too clever. Then the people will see that we are stupid. So they don't invest in education. Look around you. Kids, standard 8, they can't read with comprehension. They can't. They standard 8. They can't read with comprehension. That is something they should be able to do in standard 1. Go and look in China. Grade 1 and grade 2 pupils in China already do science and mathematics. In South Africa, they couldn't pass the mathematics, so they dropped the pass rate. How clever was that? It can also use such resources to invest in sectors of the economy where there are actual market failures. In short, because of competing economic and social objectives, governments eventually run out of money to recapitalize enterprises in which it is the sole shareholder. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand what he is saying. And this government is out of money. Look at the volume of debt that they take on to finance themselves. And then the billions in bailouts, billions and billions and billions. In the event the government is not in a position to sell the coal power stations to private companies, Motsa said they commend that a public-private partnership model is pursued. Now he offers this as a second option for in case they don't want to sell the power stations for fucking reasons, doesn't make sense, but if they don't want to sell it, they can go in a partnership. But just there is already a major fucking problem, because to partner with government in a business is a major fuck up. It is like a brain surgeon taking on a newspaper seller as his assistant. Can you imagine that fuck up in that theater? Would you like your skull to be cut open and by Sipo, the newspaper seller, digging around in your brain? Not for me, thank you. The government is already mulling the extension of life for the Indrina and Arnold coal power stations through PPPP. And Motsa said they were unequivocally in support of this move. He's got to support it because they're getting the second choice. We do acknowledge and accept that perhaps because of one reason or the other, it may not be possible for the government to agree to privatize the generation coal-fired power plants. Then we say the suboptimal option then would be for those power plants to be operated by a public-private partnership. What he's actually saying here is, listen, we understand that you guys are eating out of ESKOM. But fuck man, let's make that lunch boxes a little bit smaller. Then we can drive the station and let it actually perform. Because you must understand, these guys that want to buy those power stations, they want it for only one reason: to generate more power. But that we know, everybody eats out of ESKOM. They eat out of ESKOM. The role of the private sector would essentially be providing financial resources to recapitalize these power plants. Our view is that the government has a lot on its plate. And this guy is such a fucking gentleman. Motsa also said that the unbundling of ESKOM into generation, transmission and some parts of distribution would not solve the country's electricity woes because they would still be wholly owned by government. Wholly owned by government is a fuck up. We've seen it. SAL is gone. The railways is gone. ESKOM is almost gone. Armscor is gone. Get it into your skull. You cannot have those deployed cadres sitting in control of an economy. In a previous Skidmark, I showed you the cockpit of a modern jetliner. Imagine that with an unqualified, low IQ person behind the controls. That aeroplane will crash. Fuck, it won't even get off the ground. As a result, he said the transmission side of the business must also be concessioned to independent private players for a period of at least 15 to 20 years. This guy is so fucking nice. He is trying to give them a way out, but at least get into a place where they can generate more power for them because they need power. And then he say things like this. There's only one option. Sell the fucking thing to them and get over it. And just get a contract out of them that they must supply X number of megawatts per month. That's all. Not a 397,000 page fucking contract, of which the first 300,000 pages of how the cadres will get, how everyone will get his piece, how everyone will get his lunch. This is the problem with South Africa. Corruption is fucking us. That's what's happening. The proposal will test the government's commitment to safeguarding ESKOM's generation business from private ownership, as President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated over a number of times that ESKOM's restructuring into 3 units did not mean privatization. Now, I've said many times, ESKOM is the last state utility that must get into the hands of the oligarchs. And Cyril say things like this just to bullshit us all, because that is the ultimate goal. But now, his fucking oligarchs is not these guys that comes with a solid proposal. His oligarchs is handled from America and selected by the Americans, selected by XXX. It will also play a big role into further discussions after the ruling. ANC recommended that ESKOM delays the decommissioning of its aging coal-fired power stations to help minimize rolling blackouts. ESKOM was given a lifeline by the National Treasury in February, in which the government agreed to shoulder 254 billion rand, with a B, billion, of the utilities' colossal 423 billion rand debt over 3 years in a bid to address its persistently weak financial position and enable it to conduct the necessary investment and maintenance. And let me just flash back to 1994. ESKOM was making a fucking profit! However, this debt relief program came with strict conditions, including that only capital expenditure that may be undertaken for generation relates to minimum emission standards, flue gas desulfurization, and required maintenance. Now you see, a lot of cuck about CO2 and pollution. Think back to that video at the beginning. 0.0001. Remember that. And in normal talking terms, something with so many zeros after the digit before the number is usually seen as zero. But you need mathematics to understand that. COSATU's parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks said they were deeply concerned by some of the prohibitions of ESKOM investing in new generation capacity, saying that it made no sense. Park said one of the fundamental causes of load shedding was that ESKOM's generation fleet was nearing the end of its lifespan. Whilst it will take time for new generation to come onto the grid, and then the immediate focus of ESKOM must be on fixing existing infrastructure. If we are to ensure the long-term sustainability of ESKOM and to prevent load shedding becoming a permanent feature of the economy, then we need not only fix existing generation, but also to invest in new generation. What he says makes 100% sense, and it's true, but you and I know that every project is fucked by people wanting to eat. This condition will ensure that ESKOM will, in the long term, continue to spend money on aging and expensive infrastructure when it needs to begin moving towards building new, modern, more efficient and less costly generation capacity if it is to survive and the nation to be protected from permanent load shedding. As a result, COSATU has proposed that the prohibition on ESKOM investing in new generation capacity be removed from the debt relief package. COSATU also proposed that all customers should move to prepaid electricity to end the rising levels of debt owed to ESKOM and to ensure that it has the necessary cash flow for the government to pursue, even legally, all debt which is recoverable. And there we are. Big issues. And I'm talking about my own personal experience. In 2014, I went to my local municipality with a proposal. I said, I have this system that does debit order collections from your taxpayers. We have the feature in there that you can enter a percentage of the collection that must go to ESKOM, which will mean that as the funds is collected from the taxpayer and the ratepayers, the ESKOM percentage is taken off the collection amount and immediately transferred to ESKOM without your administration even having to do anything. Then at the end of the month, when the ESKOM account comes, you look and ESKOM, you must pay ESKOM 15 million rand. And you look on our system and you see, okay, we've already paid them 12, so we only need to pay 3. Nice presentation done. And the guy on the other side of the desk, he just sat and he stared at me. And he said, okay, we'll come back to you. And as I walked out, the guy that made the appointment for me said to me, they will never accept your proposal because you are taking the money that they eat and give it to ESKOM. They will not accept your proposal. And I tried 3 municipalities, exactly the same response. So I can understand why ESKOM is in this shit. These cretins collect the money from the ratepayers, but they never pay it over to ESKOM. And when I gave them a way out of it, I was shown the fucking door. Try and put some logics behind that. Put logics behind that. In any case, I just thought I had to share this because we have a problem, a serious problem. These guys from the Mineral Council, South Africa, comes with a proposal that will immediately give the government money for that old power station. And secondly, most importantly, it will give us more power. But those low IQ cretins sitting down in Cape Town that cannot even read a financial statement, they must make a decision on this. And the numbers is too much for them to really, they cannot envisage those numbers. All they want to know is how much will they get. And that is where the shit hits the fan. Please give me a like and subscribe and share this thing. People need to be aware of what the fuck is going on. Have a great day.